The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast with limited commercials. Now, here's host, Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of your No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Geneva, your host, every Saturday, 10 o'clock right here. And like I like to remind you, all the previous shows are on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. Now, the thing about the show, as I always say, is people you want to know more about, like Bob Duffy or Don Alhart, and people you may not know and you should know. And guests kind of beget other guests. So I happened to be with Naomi Silver around. I guess it was at a meeting we had, and she said that this fella is Marc Cohen, and you need to know Marc Cohen. You need to have Marc Cohen on your show. And I'm like, oh, okay, who's Marc Cohen? Well, you'll find out. Just talk to him. So Marc and I had a conversation, and we find out that Marc used to be the chief of staff for Bob Duffy, and he is now the vice president of government affairs for O'Connell and Associates. And what Marc is one of those people that you don't know that you should know, because he's kind of like, I would say, like a behind the scenes guy. Is that how you would explain yourself?
Sure. You know, the maybe at times the person behind the person. You're not one of those deep state people, are you? No, all good things with all good people.
All good things, all good people. Well, tell me, Marc, and now you're a Rochester guy, right?
Rochester guy, born and raised in Buffalo, outside Buffalo in Amherst, New York.
Okay.
And here by way of Albany, where I went to undergrad and grad school, and that's how I learned about Rochester and ended up in Rochester.
Well, and you're a young guy. I mean, how old are you?
I just turned 30.
Oh, God bless you. Vice President of Government Affairs for O'Connell Associates at 30.
O'Donnell, I'm sorry. O'Donnell Associates right in front of me. I misread that. Now, the question I like to ask people, the funny question, the comical question is, what did you want to do when you were a young man? I mean, obviously you didn't say you want to be Vice President of Government Affairs at O'Donnell Associates. Well, no, that's fair to say. I really enjoyed emergency medicine. My dad was a medic through undergrad and through law school. He thought he was going to be a physician and ended up going to law school. But that's how he made money. He did it, in Queens, New York, and that was his sort of job through school. I would turn his old first aid kits that he had from his time as a medic. I would turn them into my own little first aid kits. I would take my mom's old purses and I would tear my dad's, first aid kits apart, and I would make my own out of her old purses. I was obsessed with emergency medicine. And so anybody who knew me then, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old would have probably bet that I'd be a physician or a medic. And here I am as neither of those things.
None of those things.
Although I'll say I volunteer as an EMT with I was with Brighton Ambulance for a number of years, and now I'm with Pittsford Volunteer Ambulance. So I do that as a hobby. What
TV programs did you look at as 6 or 7 years old, and with that type of background you wanted?
It's a really good question. I'm the TV show that pops out that I really loved was The West Wing, and so that came out in 99, so it would have been a little bit older than that. Maybe I was about 6 or 7 when that came out, and my dad watched that show, but I don't know about my dad would watch shows like Emergency, and there were a few others that were a bit before my time that I'd watch reruns with him about. But
that's a very interesting thought, because I've watched every episode of The West Wing, and that begs a question, because you're in that environment, you're in that political behind the scenes sort of environment. When you watch The West Wing, how similar is that to real life, what you see with the West Wing?
It's a good question. First, I've seen every episode of The West Wing probably
at least 10 times every single episode. I'm obsessed with the show. I think it's great. I think it's an idealistic view of what government really ought to be working for the people. I never worked in government at that level. So in terms of that, I can't say, but I can tell you at the levels of government that I did work at, which is primarily the state government, there are really outstanding people who want to do good and want to do the right thing and want to serve people. And there are people who are in it for themselves, for their own reasons. And so there are definitely pieces of it that resonate, and then there are pieces of it that I wish were more of real life.
Well, I don't know how you can get anything done. I mean, seriously. I mean, you need a consensus of opinion, and sometimes that's not even good enough.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think in today's world, in this hyper polarized, hyper partisan world, at all levels of government, right, it does seem to be impossible to accomplish anything. The reality is, and I think if you talk to, from the county executive to the governor to the president, I'm sure they would tell you that the vast majority of bills, the vast majority of issues that face them are really not all that controversial, right? There's some, percentage in the 90s of bills federally that pass unanimously, and that really are not, it's those issues that are, that the media sensationalizes, that the media hones in on, that are going to be those, sticking points where the real, I think, sort of consternation, where the real debate happens. I don't know that the reality of the situation is that everybody, hates each other and is disagreeing with them, one another on every issue at every turn. I think it really is just select issues that, that folks take issue with at any level of government. At the county, look, County Executive Bello has passed his budget for the last, 3 years now, 29-0, a unanimous budget. That is, one example. The governor at the state level needs, that support. Democrats control the state government, but, she works to get bipartisan proposals through, and the number of bills that end up passing through unanimously, are not insignificant. And then at the federal level too, I think you'd find that a lot of, when there are massive spending packages and like that, there's going to be more debate, more argument. When there's international policies, regarding foreign aid and things of that nature, there's going to be more debate on those topics. But at the same time, I know that there are a lot of issues that don't have that same level of incredible partisanship and polarization.
So let's talk a little bit first about your previous experience with the Chamber of Commerce. Now, you're Bob Duffy's chief of staff. Now, so as his chief of staff, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I first met Bob Duffy when I was an intern for him in Albany in his lieutenant governor's office, and it was at that time in my college career that I learned what a true statesman, a true statesperson is. And I say that because I was an intern. I was the bottom of the barrel. And every day that I was there, he walks in, people say, good morning, governor, good morning, governor. He would go to every single member of his staff, ask how they were. When I won the vice presidency of my college, student association, he had a letter written for me that he gave to me that I still have framed. You can't fake that. And so, at that level, I realized, okay, Bob Duffy's really just an incredible human. Fast forward, we served on the SUNY Board of Trustees together for 2 years that I was there. And I was going to go work for a very large company in their government affairs office in New York City. And instead, Bob Duffy said, hey, you should consider Rochester, New York. And I said, at the time, I called him governor. I said, Governor, I really appreciate that. I'm a huge fan of yours. I don't really have any interest in Rochester. In fact, I've already got a job offer in New York City. I'm going to live there. My brother's an attorney down there. My mother is just thrilled that my brother and I are going to live together. And he said, yeah, you should really check out Rochester. And so, he's not somebody who at that time you say no to. So I came and the rest is history. I'll say he got my mother on his side by saying I could be home for dinner in 50 minutes. So he outranked me on that one, but the rest is history. I came to Rochester and have really just really owed him quite a bit.
Well, we're about ready to head into a break, but you are touching on something that is absolutely near and dear to my heart. And one of the things is how great this place is, and a suggestion that I have about, how to take advantage of that. So right after that, we'll talk about, that. This is Dom Genova from my friend Jack Greco at Jack Greco Furniture.
I'd invite you to go see Jack Greco if you're looking to buy furniture right now. But beyond that, I'd invite you to go see Jack Greco if you're ever going to buy new furniture. And why? You can look and dream and plan how exactly you'd like your furniture. The type of wood, construction is half the fun. It's going to be reflective of your taste, and quite frankly, you'll want to pass it down as an heirloom. Can't say that about the big box stores. Go see Jack. Well, welcome back. We're talking with Marc Cohen, who is the Vice President of Government Affairs at O'Donnell and Associates, where he started to talk about his role as Bob Duffy's Chief of Staff. And I was asking him, well, basically, what do you do as a Chief of Staff? Because there's somebody there that is arranging, making sure that the wheels turn, kind of keeping people away from him that should probably be away from him, and putting him in contact with people he needs to be in contact with. So
the first thing everybody knows about Bob Duffy is he will talk to anybody about anything for any length of time and engage on any issue, which is both a blessing and a curse at the staff level. So Bob brings me to Rochester. I started at the Chamber as the manager for special projects, where I got a really good sense of what the Chamber of Commerce did and what we did to serve our 1,300 plus members. And after about 4 months, this is at the end of 2018 going into 2019, he had promoted me to chief of staff. And in that role, I primarily oversaw government affairs, intergovernmental affairs, advocacy, and our policy portfolio, and worked with the incredible team that he had put together at the Chamber. I'd say I also worked to help him with his massive portfolio of extracurricular activities, which include being a SUNY trustee and chair of the Regional Economic Development Council and newly the chair of the Buffalo Bills Stadium Corporation. So there's, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of these, by the way, all of which are volunteer roles. And it's funny because the media or individuals more specifically will sometimes, say, I wonder, the gravy train keeps flowing. I wonder how much Bob Duffy makes $0 on that. In fact, he pays for his own travel and he pays his own way. So it's probably a losing venture. But part of my role was to engage, on those things as well, which was great. And the fact that, Bob is engaged in all of that and gave me the opportunities to do that was incredibly fun. And so it's, it was other duties as assigned. It was just helping to ensure that what he was trying to do could get done. A lot of ensuring follow through and, making sure that the folks, with whom, he would talk about issues had follow up and like that. So that's a lot of what the role was.
Well, let's talk a little bit before I get into the deal I was going to talk to you about Rochester and what you experienced when you first got here. The role of the Chamber now. I think a lot of people aren't really aware of what the Chamber does. I mean, they have a Chamber of Commerce, and Chamber of Commerce, from my experience, is a vast difference in chambers. Some of them seem to be social clubs. Some of them seem to have this ability just to perpetuate themselves. But this chamber seems to be a very active chamber, but I think that a lot of people don't know what the chamber does. So let's talk a little bit about some of the major things that the Chamber of Commerce does.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. You're spot on. And frankly speaking, there are your Main Street chambers, which are, let's have a lasagna dinner. Here's a drink ticket. Go to the bar, and we'll do that a couple times a year and help you to network. And that's that. And that's great. And there's a very important place for that in communities. That is not what the Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce is. What Bob has grown the Greater Rochester Chamber into is an organization that truly serves as the voice of business for our 9-county region and sometimes beyond for upstate New York. And what that means is ensuring that our elected leaders at every level of government know what is facing the business community and the nonprofit community and our members in general, what policies should be adjusted, what regulatory constraints exist that easing or changing would create a better climate for business to help businesses and nonprofits flourish. And the role the Chamber has taken on to do that is really important and really significant in the community. And different from what other chambers might do.
So let's talk about the different silos then, because you have to have committees, and the committees do such and such. I mean, as far as the chamber goes, enlighten me.
Yeah, so our chamber exists to do precisely what I just said, and you've got a lot of ways that we do that. We hold events. We've got a whole series of varying events to highlight various aspects of what the chamber does. You've got an incredible membership team led by Kevin Donahue, which is to make sure businesses know that we exist and that that we, that we're able to represent their views at the national, state, and local levels. You've got a communications team whose job it is to help amplify. Xander Roaring is the director of communications, and his job is to help amplify what our members are doing and what the business community here does. And then, of course, to another piece of your question, talent strategy and ensuring that, businesses here have workers in the workforce that they need to grow and to succeed. We, as the Chamber of Commerce, have been charged, and I say we in my formal role, the Chamber of Commerce has been charged with talent strategy for the 9-county region.
Mm-hmm. Well, what specific? You were there. You had some specific programs to promote the Rochester area. Now, wasn't like workforce stuff? Explain some of the specifics to me.
Yeah, so there is this collective of economic development organizations called ROC 2025,
right?
Now called One ROC.
That's what I wanted to hear about.
Our piece of that is talent strategy, and again, I'm saying our as if I'm still there, but I'm speaking to you from when I was there. And the chamber's role in that is talent strategy. The Greater Rochester Enterprise is charged with business attraction and retention. Visit Rochester under Don Jeffries is charged with, the Visitor Bureau, sort of piece of that, and marketing the region. You've got the Downtown Development Corporation, which is responsible for urban revitalization. Our government partners at the state and local levels. The chamber's role specifically around talent strategy is to ensure that we're bringing people here to fill jobs, that we are retaining the existing. We've got something like 80,000 college students. We want them to get their degree. We want them to graduate. We want them to buy houses here. We want them to settle here. We want them to work here. We don't want the brain drain in Rochester. And so our role as the chamber is to create programs like Campus Rock, which the Chamber of Commerce went on to college campuses and engaged with college placement officers. There's a wonderful director, and it was Julia Pagano, who just recently left. But Julia's role was to do precisely that, the talent strategy around veterans and bringing folks from Fort Drum. Yashira Rodriguez was in charge of that program. She would go to Fort Drum, bring them here, put them on a bus, put them up in a hotel, take them to the Strong, take them to Dinosaur Barbecue, show them all of the wonderful things that Rochester has to offer. There is the Melanie Della Pietra runs it was called Greater Rock Remote, which they've rebranded, and that was a program where we worked to attract new talent by offering a $10,000 incentive to come here, stay here for 12 months, hopefully longer than 12 months, hopefully for forever, but a program where folks would be incentivized to come and live in Rochester. And again, all of this done in the spirit of we want to bring new businesses, we want to grow the economy, and in order to do that, you need the workforce to make it happen.
Well, and we are about ready to head into another break, but this brings up something that I've noticed and I've seen since I've been here. I'm a newcomer. I've only been here since 1994. So I'm still discovering really wonderful things about Rochester. But Bob and I, when he was on the show, he's kicked off every show that I've had. We're in our 7th year. He was the first guest that I had back in 2019, and he's been the first guest for every year since. And like I said, we're about ready to head to a break, but we were talking about a concept that I think you will subscribe to about Rochester, and maybe some things that we have that we should promote or talk about or get people to realize. And we're going to be talking about that right after this break.
This is Dom Genova from Myers Creative. People get DNA tested to see where their ancestors came from, and that's all you get, where they came from. How about if you could actually have a video of past family? Well, you can't do that for the past, but you could do it for the future. John Myers can visit your home and video a professional and thoughtful interview for you to pass down to generations. Book one for yourself or give one as a Christmas gift to mom and dad to talk about their story. Or both. Go to lifeinterviews.com.
Well, welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova. We're talking to Marc Cohen, who's Vice President of Government Affairs at O'Donnell and Associates, who used to be Bob Duffy's Chief of Staff. And I was saying that Bob has been a great supporter of the show, and he's been on every year as my first guest, the beginning of each year. And he was just on a couple of weeks ago. We talked about,
there's something that I noticed on my trip to see my daughter in South Bend, and I'm driving by Buffalo, and I go, Buffalo's kind of a cool place now. It didn't used to be a cool place. Cool place now. And of course, the Bills help with that, but it's a cool place. I'm driving by Cleveland, and like, wow, Cleveland's like a cool place. People, oh yeah, Cleveland. And I don't know about Toledo. Toledo's another story. Certainly South Bend. It's South Bend, and we have this brand here, or we should have this brand. We have this identity. I mean, this could be a really cool place. And one of the things that I found, and Bob and I discussed this during the show. People come here and they go, "Wow, I didn't know this was that nice. I didn't, wow, this is really cool." It's like my next door neighbor here. He came from California, and you see that house over there. He's got this beautiful house. He must have had I don't know what he had in California, but it wasn't that house. Okay, it wasn't that house, And I was saying, I'm a marketing guy. I got an MBA in marketing. That's what I kind of do for even a hobby and whatever. And when you say that somebody has come here and they're surprised how nice it is, that's after they bought.
Yep.
That's not top of the funnel. Top of the funnel is, I'm looking for someplace to live, or there's a choice of me working for Paychecks in Rochester or so-and-so in such and such place. Rochester, that's really kind of a cool place. The property values are good. The schools, we have some problem with some of the schools, but the schools, generally speaking, are good. You have all the water you want. You don't have any fires, tornadoes. You have this wonderful culture that we celebrate. We got you got the Kodak Theater, and then you got the Eastman Theater, and you got Jiva, and you got the West Terror, and you got the National Museum of Play, and you got the Science Museum, and you have all of this stuff, and we're kind of branded as like the Flower City. It's like, is that lilacs or Bisquick? I don't understand. So I'm pitching this idea that we should do something to brand Rochester, tech hub and all that jazz or something or other. Just get to the point where we make ourselves into a someplace that has that type of consideration. Like you were saying, the students to come here, go to school here, and stay here.
Yep.
And people that are looking to relocate, or people looking for jobs, to say that this is really kind of a cool place to live, because we really do have a wonderful quality of life. So we're putting together a committee to see if we can't advance just at least that thought. One of the everything's strategy and tactics. I say one of the tactics might be that we have like a Kennedy Center-ish presentation every year that transcends just music. It could be for music and other cultural aspects that we have and whatever. But this is a much, much, much nicer place than we have a reputation of being.
It is, and it's not what it used to be, and it's not just, they're up and coming. It's Rochester has arrived. Rochester's made it for so many reasons. There's a lot more to do, right? In terms of people thinking of Rochester as a first choice versus a backup or by happenstance. But there is, and this is about Buffalo, which I agree is a very cool place, having grown up there and being part of the Western New York community. Buffalo, I think it was last week or the week before, CNN does their morning sort of roundup of news stories. Buffalo was listed as the hottest market for housing, the hottest housing market in the entire country. Rochester routinely, the 14618 in Brighton, parts of the city are routinely listed on Realtor.com and various websites as the hottest markets in the country. When you look at what we've got going here, and you pointed out, Dom, a lot of those aspects, the fresh water, the lack of natural disasters, but the colleges and universities, the accessibility to recreation, the companies, the cost of living, the neighborhoods, the list goes on and on of all the reasons why Rochester it's not just nice because you have to be here. you should really want to be here. And part of what you're talking about is that effort to get people to want to be here.
Well, and I was talking to Don Jeffries. I say, Don, this kind of dovetails with what you guys do. You get the Visitors Bureau, you get people to come here. Well, let's get people to live here.
Yeah. And Don does a great job with that.
Yeah,
right?
he does
Bringing
a great
people
job
on and hopefully some of those people end up,
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the PGA coming, and if you look at the data, I think Don and his team have it, in 2013, and I wonder how it's going to be for 2024, but in 2013, we had a huge influx of people coming here. You know when else we had a huge influx of people coming?
What?
2014, because people said, I want to be here for more than just a couple of days. I want to go to the Strong. I want to check out RMSE. I want to check out, some of the trails and the hiking and some of the food scene and some of these other attractions that we have. So when people come here, they love it, they see it. But you're absolutely right. It's these opportunities that exist, and we've just got to figure out a way to to spread the word.
Well, I quite frankly, I am just I'm frustrated by you go now. I'm from outside of the New York City area, on Long Island, about 35 miles east of the city, and you talk to people down there like, oh my God, it's snow and you're almost Canada, and
and they're not quite sure if we have running water and electricity, but in fact we do.
Isn't that where you have garbage plates? It's like, oh my God, stop! Stop. We need to brand ourselves, and I don't know. They're different. Now, again, strategy and tactics. The strategy, I would say, is to do something where maybe Dick says maybe we have something to attract a national attention every month. Okay, that's rather aggressive, but if we did something like that, but the thing is to get ahead of the funnel. Now, when I was a car dealer, I advertised myself as the no-nonsense car dealer, right? We know that. But it was never, come in today, we got this sale, you have to be here. No, it's like, when you're ready, come see us. So you have these companies, you have these national companies now. You got Paychecks and you got Constellation Brands, let's say, just to name it two. Now, when people are looking of where they want to where they want to go work, where the headquarters are, you take a look at the town. And I always like to tell the story, like when I was working for Chrysler and it was Detroit. I'm going to go Detroit? No, that's okay. I'm not going to Detroit. No. But they moved the offices to Auburn Hills. Okay. All right. Well, that's a completely different story. Sure. So people's perception of us, I think, is skewed by our maybe our lack of being, maybe, I don't know, maybe we should make a little bit more of ourselves. Maybe we should do a little bit more of our own promotion.
Sure. And I think that it's being done. And I think just ensuring that we continue to do it and that we, you look at, and, you and I talked previously when we were getting coffee about the book Jumpstarting America. Simon Johnson and Jonathan Gruber, these two MIT professors, zero bias. They did a quantitative, objective study of where the government ought to invest R&D dollars. This is all back to the tech hub that you were talking about. But essentially, they looked at I think 112 MSAs across the entire country, and Rochester was the number one choice, the number one recommendation they had for the federal government to invest dollars in research and development because of the graduates and doctorate degrees per capita, because of our colleges and universities, because of our incredible base of technology and like that. And so I think when we look at those things, and to your point, doing a better job of advertising, again, not just, Rochester kind of exists and it's all right, but intentionally people should want to live here. I think it's really important.
Well, and I look and I say all the time is that, I don't know much about Austin, but Austin's got a really good reputation. Sure. People want to go live in Austin. And we're going to be talking, when we come back from this break, we're going to finally, after all this time, talk a little bit more about you.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Well, welcome back. We're having a nice discussion with a nice young man. My God, you're young enough to be my son. Marc Cohen. He was Bob Duffy's chief of staff. We were talking a lot about Rochester and our love of Rochester. And he is vice president of government affairs at O'Donnell and Associates. 99 Washington Avenue, Albany. You're in now. Do you commute to Albany?
No, so that's our. We have an office in Albany. We have an office in Buffalo. Okay. Obviously here, and then in New York City, and we have a presence in DC. So we're all throughout New York State, and we are your New York State solution for government affairs and advocacy work.
Well, and I promised Marc something during this last commercial break, and I said finally after all this time,
we would start talking about you.
No, it's been, listen, this is, I love conversations about Rochester and my last life at the chamber. It's well,
let's talk about your life now. What do you, I mean, what do you do? How do you do it? And what's your day like?
Well, so first, my incredible wife, Emily Cohen, is sort of the glue that keeps us all together. She has her doctorate degree in education and is in fundraising as a background and works in the nonprofit world and is just an incredible human being. And we have a 1-year-old, 13 months old now son, Benjamin, who, if anybody follows me on social media, which, just be forewarned, it's going to be a love fest of our son, Benjamin, because he's just a great personality. And now I'm the vice president of government affairs at O'Donnell, and, the founder, the managing partner of the firm, Jack O'Donnell, is headquartered in Buffalo. We talk about, where you're headquartered, very intentionally, a Buffalo guy. He grew up in Buffalo and cares a lot about upstate New York. And sort of his mantra when we talk to our clients and we talk to elected officials is, we advocate for what we advocate for because we live in these communities. We're doing what we believe to be in the best interest, of course, of our clients, but also what we believe to be in the best interest of the communities in which we live, because we, the staff, we live here, and we want the communities that we're raising our families in to be strong.
So what is your day like? What is a typical week for you?
So it's advocacy, and during January to June, when the New York State Legislature is in session, it is commuting back and forth to Albany on session days and working to help clients get their messages out to Albany, to our elected delegation in Albany, to the rest of the state assembly and Senate delegation, to the governor's office. But it's also working with folks to get their message out. We have a PR arm of the firm that aims to folks who are already doing incredible things in a space, help them to spread their message and get the word out about what they're doing, so that elected officials, yes, but members of their own communities know that they're doing incredible things. So my day-to-day is working with our clients to help them achieve their objectives, solving their problems, helping them to overcome regulatory issues, and frankly, for our larger clients and folks who have a presence far outside New York, sometimes internationally, it's to show them that New York is a great place. Yes, it can be difficult to do business. Yes, it can be hard to navigate the regulatory sort of system, but we're here to help you do that, right? Not in any untoward or backhanded way, but instead by using our relationships, by using our knowledge of Albany, by using our knowledge of the 62 counties to help them achieve their objectives.
So I would suspect you can't tell me who your clients are, but you tell me what type of. Oh, you can.
Oh, absolutely. It's so. Okay.
Tell me
the interesting world of frankly of lobbying is that it's all publicly reportable. So we have incredible clients, and in Rochester, it's Trillium Health, it's Paychex, it's Indus Hospitality Group, it's the YMCA, it's the Goodwill, it's the Del Monte Group. It's just these incredible organizations that that want to do good in the community and that just need a little help achieving their objectives. In Buffalo, rather, I'm sorry. It's New Era Cap and Delaware North, and really big companies for sure, but companies that are very present in their communities. And so we have I don't know how many clients, but we have a lot of clients all throughout New York State, and again we aim to be their solution. And for different clients, it's different things. It's helping Trillium Health to get funding to achieve their objectives and do good things in the communities in which they operate. And it's helping these nonprofits and these businesses to do good things.
So is it primarily nonprofits that you're?
No, not necessarily. A lot of nonprofits do work with us because we've got experience in that space, and frankly, they need help. They need funding from government sources, and they need the relationships in Albany and in their local counties and with their federal partners. And so it's sometimes not enough to just do a good thing. Folks need to know you're doing a good thing so that they are top of mind when funding opportunities, when grants come along, when regulatory changes really are needed or statutory changes are needed. That's the thing. Our elected leaders, and we were talking about this earlier in one of your last segments, they're very good people. They're not malicious. When they put these laws forward that might end up making life more difficult, they're not doing it with the intention of making life more difficult. They're doing it because, Maya Angelou had the quote, I did then what I knew how to do. Now that I know better, I do better. Our job is to help these elected leaders to learn, right? It's to put these business leaders, to put these nonprofit leaders in front of them, to testify, to meet with them in Albany or in their district offices, and have the elected leaders or their staff ask questions and have our clients give answers and let them know what they need to keep doing the good work that they're doing, to help bring new business here, to help expand their business, to help bring employees. And so we try to be that vehicle to help share that information with the decision makers.
Well, I do agree with what you said before about people. I think people with the best intentions sometimes. Well, I think the worst law of all is the law of unintended consequences. I mean, you do something you think it's going to be, right, but it has a completely opposite effect to what you to what you intend. But the other side of that is that people's resistance to change, one way or the other, change to do something, but change to stop what you're doing when you made the wrong decision and back up and reconnoiter. I think that's probably one of the biggest problems we have with the government today, is that once something gets established, it very seldomly gets stopped.
That's
right?
the way it has been. That's the way it is. That's the way it'll always be. And
human nature.
It's human nature. And so the role of a firm like O'Donnell and Associates in my position is to recognize, we understand this is the way things have been. We understand this is the way things are. We can help things to be better moving forward. And it's okay. Change is not inherently a bad thing. Change for the sake of change is not always great. But if there's an intent, if there's a purpose behind that change, and we're using experts to inform that change, right, Tom? It's not just, let's just change it because it's been this way for 50 years and we should change it, but rather, okay, you want to make a change to a labor policy or transportation policy or an environmental policy? Great. Let's bring in the experts who are in the space, who are the practitioners, not, existential or theoretically involved with it, but who are practically involved in it. Let's bring them in to speak to the elected leaders, to speak to the decision makers. And part of what we do is serve as that vehicle to help inform those decisions, so that we're being as proactive as we can, so that we don't then have to react to a policy that's not always going to be helpful and not always going to help to achieve the objectives.
So we call this the retail section of the show, but there's nothing for you to sell here.
No, and
to the general public.
No, and we don't want to. I guess the message that is at the chamber, I had incredible opportunities under Bob Duffy's leadership and tutelage to help to be behind the scenes and effectuate hopefully some meaningful change. And through O'Donnell Associates, I'm lucky to hopefully continue to have those opportunities to work with organizations that are doing incredible things in Greater Rochester and in New York State, and I guess for your huge listenership, to know that oftentimes government is this complicated labyrinth that can't get anything done. Just to convey the message that things can get done, and that things are getting done, and that we've got great elected leaders and great staff members in their offices who want to see things accomplished. And so, it's the same way that you might look at what a physician does or an engineer does and say, I have no idea. In the government affairs world, there's positive things happening, and our job is to just help to effectuate some of it.
Well, I now having met you, I understand why Naomi said I should meet you, because you seem to be a fellow who knows the behind the scenes stuff on how to get things done and how things work. So I'm going to ask you for something. I'm going to a little retail here. I'm going to ask you to go look at my website, rochesterhonors.org.
Okay.
And just take a look at that. And my feeling and design for maybe us getting together as a community to advance ourselves, and maybe in the next week or two, you can give me some advice and thoughts about that very idea. So thank you for coming in, Mark.
I'm bookmarking it right now.
Rochesterhonors.org. We have a number of people on the committee already just to investigate this. Bob Duffy and Don Jeffries and Naomi Silver and Dr. D.T. Ogilvy, who used to be the dean of the School of Business at the Saunders College at RIT. And with that, thank you for coming in, and
thanks for having me.
Yeah,
this is great.
Watch out for deer on the way out.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Next week, 10 o'clock, right here, is the No Nonsense Roundtable.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every Saturday from 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.